He wasn't supposed to return. But death never meant the end for Red Skull. Buried in the ruins of the old Hydra stronghold, something stirred. And when he rose, he didn't come alone. Every hero who ever stood against him was now on a list. Superman sensed it first, a darkness not of this earth. The Avengers dismissed the warning until Iron Man vanished. By then, it was already too late. They thought he was gone forever. Dust, ash, and a footnote in Hydra's history. But evil doesn't rest. Not when it's unfinished. Deep beneath the frozen remains of an old Hydra bunker in Siberia, the ice cracked, not from shifting tectonic plates, but from something breathing underneath. Radiation monitors went silent. Satellite scans glitched. A no-man's land suddenly not so empty. S.H.I.E.L.D. dismissed it as background interference. Stark's satellites flagged it, but Tony was too busy handling another interplanetary flare-up. And so, no one noticed what was waking up beneath the Earth. Red Skull had died in flames, but Hydra never believed in death. Before his final collapse, he initiated Protocol, Rebirth, an Omega-level failsafe designed for one man and one man only. A backup plan buried, so deep even Zola didn't know all the steps. It required time, darkness, and something Hydra always had plenty of: sacrifice. It wasn't magic. It wasn't science. It was something worse, a hybrid of alien tech and occult bloodlines, fusing stolen Asgardian relics with modified X-gene serums. Hydra had been experimenting with fragments of celestial DNA, trying to clone immortality. It didn't work on soldiers. It didn't work on test subjects. But Red Skull wasn't a man anymore. He was something else now. When the ice finally shattered, it didn't explode. It evaporated like it was never there. A black mist spilled into the cavern like it had a purpose. And in its center stood a shape, spine bent, face twisted, eyes glowing like two dying stars. The skull had returned, but not the one anyone remembered. This was a creature wearing the memory of Red Skull like a mask. His first word wasn't in German or English. It wasn't even human. It was a frequency, a vibration that echoed through the planet's crust. And that's when the killing started. Not publicly, not grand, not cinematic. Silently, precisely. One hero at a time. It began with speedsters. Quicksilver was the first to die. His body found burned from the inside out, nerves fried, eyes wide open in horror. Flash was next, ripped from his timeline and returned as a shell, running in circles with no soul, before collapsing in front of the Hall of Justice. No evidence, no energy signatures, just static. The Justice League blamed it on multiversal instability. The Avengers thought it was sabotage. Superman felt something else. He heard it, faint, hidden between dimensions. A pulse, a beat, like a second heartbeat inside the planet, and it wasn't Earth's. Clark called it an echo of something angry. Batman dismissed it. Wonder Woman sharpened her sword. But deep down, Kal-El knew this wasn't some dimensional bleed. This was personal. Meanwhile, across the ocean, the murders got louder. A mutant outpost in West Africa was found incinerated. Dozens dead. No survivors. Beast's notes were the only thing left. It wasn't a mutant. It wasn't a man. It was something older. It looked at me, and I forgot who I was. Within 48 hours, Black Panther vanished. Wakanda shut its borders and severed external communication. Their satellites went dark. No explanation. No footage. Only a single message got out. 3 words. He's not dead. When Tony read the transmission, he laughed. Red Skull? That fossil. But Steve didn't laugh. His knuckles tightened. He hadn't said Red Skull's name in years. Because deep down, Steve remembered the look in Johann Schmidt's eyes the day he vanished. Not fear, not anger. Certainty. Certainty that he would return. S.H.I.E.L.D. dispatched recon teams. None returned. Only their equipment did, boxed up, delivered to S.H.I.E.L.D. HQ in perfect condition. No trace of their bodies. No sign of a fight. That's when Nick Fury blacklisted the Arctic Zone. No entry. Not even by drone. But someone didn't listen. Ghost Rider went in alone. He came back whispering in tongues, skull cracked. bike melted. Johnny Blaze never spoke again. He just sat there, rocking, drawing a symbol on the floor in his own ash. A twisted Hydra insignia, fused with something ancient and circular. Strange recognized it, and Strange looked afraid. The Sorcerer Supreme called an emergency meeting, not just Avengers or Justice League, but gods, titans, and former enemies. Something has resurrected with knowledge it shouldn't possess, he said. It's not Red Skull anymore. It's something using him. Thor offered to crush it before it could spread. But Strange warned, strike it down, and it will only grow. This isn't war, it's infestation. That night, dozens of sanctums across the multiverse went into lockdown. But it didn't matter, because Red Skull wasn't coming to the heroes. He was already inside. Captain Marvel vanished mid-flight, just blinked out over the Pacific. No energy surge, no dimensional rift, just gone. The Teen Titans received a gift box. Inside, Cyborg's mechanical heart still beating. Raven screamed for 5 straight minutes before vanishing in a puff of black mist. Then came the worst part. Red Skull didn't want territory. He didn't want money. He didn't even want power. He wanted remembrance. One by one, he began sending memories, illusions of the hero's darkest failures, back to them. Bruce Banner relived the day he killed hundreds in Johannesburg. Superman saw Krypton crack again. Steve Rogers opened his eyes and found himself back in the ice, alone, cold, forgotten. The team began to splinter. Arguments rose. Trust broke. And somewhere in the shadows, the Skull watched, feeding on every flicker of despair. This wasn't vengeance. This was art. And the massacre? It had only just begun. The first real blow wasn't even noticed. Not at first. It started in Genosha, a mutant haven turned ghost island. Storm had flown in after detecting seismic tremors from orbit, but the sky went silent when she got close. No signal, no weather disturbance, just a dead zone in the atmosphere, like the island had been erased from Earth's laws. When they finally found her, her body was floating in the upper ionosphere. Eyes burned out, lightning scars carved across her chest in the shape of a Hydra emblem. And then came the broadcast. Every screen, every satellite, every mobile device across the globe, hacked in one synchronized blink. A cracked, flickering video. Static, then his voice. Red Skull, or whatever was using his skin, speaking in a tone colder than death. You left me to rot. You buried me beneath ice, beneath dirt, beneath memory. And yet, I return, not to conquer, not to rebuild. I come only to finish. The message ended. No demands, no threats, just a promise. Within the hour, Iron Man went offline. No explosion, no distress signal, just silence. Pepper called the Avengers Tower in a panic. Said Tony was tracing a heat signature over the Arctic Circle. They told her not to worry. 5 minutes later, all that remained of the Iron Man suit fell from orbit, crashing through the Avengers war table in a molten heap of twisted metal. No body, no AI, just the arc reactor pulsing faintly. Cold. Steve didn't say a word. He just picked it up and walked away. Thor hurled Mjolnir into the clouds with rage, calling down a tempest on the northern skies. Let him come to me, he said. But Red Skull didn't play by rules anymore. That night, Atlantis fell. Namor's kingdom, known for centuries of resilience, was reduced to fragments, not by bombs or armies, by silence. Every living thing below the sea stopped, like time had frozen and cracked at the same moment. When Aquaman and King Namor were found, their eyes were locked open, bodies fossilized, yet still warm. And across the ocean, in Gotham, Batman stood on top of a skyscraper, unmoving. He had watched it all. He had connected the dots. And he knew something no one else would say out loud. This wasn't Red Skull anymore. It was something older, something wearing hate like a uniform, but built from something worse than ideology. Grief weaponized. Superman touched down beside him. We can't keep reacting, Clark said. He's setting the board. We're the pieces. No, Bruce replied. We're the bait. That's when the Avengers got desperate. Black Widow reached out to S.H.I.E.L.'s shadow network. Agents embedded in the underworld, ex-Hydra loyalists, war criminals with ties to the old Red Room. Most didn't respond. One did. A former Hydra psychic, codenamed Veritas. They extracted her in under 4 minutes, but she was already bleeding from the nose, eyes gone white. "He's not just back," she said. "He's remembering things he was never told. Things no one should know." "What things?" Natasha asked. Veritas looked at her, trembling. "He knows how you die." Before she could finish her sentence, her head snapped backward. No bullet, no explosion. Just gone. Like something had plucked her soul from her skull mid-sentence. Her body turned to ash in Natasha's arms. Back at the Hall of Justice, things weren't better. Martian Manhunter had locked himself in a psychic containment chamber, screaming fragments of visions, dead planets, mirror versions of Superman, dark echoes of Red Skull fused with something alien, something cosmic. His final words before falling into a coma. He touched the source wall. Now everything made sense, and nothing made sense. He wasn't just back from the dead. He had been beyond. Thor left immediately. He opened a Bifrost to chase the trail, soaring into the stars, tracking ancient war signals burned into the fabric of reality. He reached the ruins of an old celestial mining outpost near Saturn, and there he saw it, floating in space, a giant skull, carved from the remains of a dead celestial, burning with dark magic, and standing on its forehead, holding Mjolnir. No, not a Mjolnir, Thor's Mjolnir, except Thor still held his own. 2 hammers, 1 truth. This version of Red Skull was consuming timelines, merging fractured realities where heroes had died differently, where weapons had different owners, where betrayals happened at different moments. He wasn't just killing heroes, he was absorbing their echoes. And Earth was next. Thor screamed into the void, unleashing a cosmic thunderblast that shattered the celestial skull into fragments. But the moment the light faded, the fragments reformed, laughing in Red Skull's voice. "You're not the god of thunder here," it whispered. "Here, I am." Back on Earth, Captain America did something no one expected. He left. He walked out of the Avengers compound in silence. No orders. No speech. Natasha tried to stop him. He didn't respond. Bruce asked where he was going. Steve just said, "To end what I started in 1945. He knew the truth. Red Skull wasn't just returning from a grave. He was finishing the war. And Steve Rogers wasn't going to wait to lose more friends. He was going to find him, or die trying. Superman could feel Earth shaking, but not from explosions. It was trust, cracking. Every time he closed his eyes, he heard them. Screams that hadn't happened yet. Cries from versions of the Justice League that didn't exist here. Realities bleeding into his mind like poison. Every second, his powers flared without warning, because Red Skull had reached a place Superman hadn't. He wasn't just attacking the world. He was attacking belief. Bruce Wayne couldn't sleep. He stopped eating. He locked himself inside the Batcave's quantum archive and watched timeline anomalies multiply across the multiverse. Realities where Superman had turned dictator. Realities where Steve Rogers had led Hydra. Realities where he, Bruce, had joined the League of Shadows and killed Clark with kryptonite knives. Every file was corrupted by the same glitch. A flash of Red Skull's face, wearing a crown made of dead hero emblems. Meanwhile, Captain America was gone. No word, no trace. Just his shield, left behind, on the Avengers table, split in half. Thor took it as a sign of surrender. Wolverine called it a warning. Strange had another idea. He's removing us from the inside. He's not here to fight. He's here to fracture. The Council of Heroes, what was left of it, met in silence. Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, Wolverine, Thor, Black Widow, Doctor Strange, and Reed Richards, now aged nearly a decade from time stress. Each wrinkle drawn from a different failed universe he tried to hold together. None of them trusted each other anymore. Not after what happened to Vision. The android had tried to interface with one of Red Skull's quantum signals to trace its origin. He made it 30 seconds before something hijacked him. He turned, eyes red, mouth split open into a human smile. And then, without warning, he stabbed Wanda through the chest. No emotion, no hesitation, just a statement. She doesn't exist in the new world. Wanda didn't die, not immediately, but something shattered inside her. She screamed once, and half the compound cracked. When she vanished, no one followed, because no one knew if she'd return as Scarlet Witch or something worse. Now everyone was a suspect. Superman accused Strange. You've seen what's coming, and you're still holding back. Strange answered coldly, because you don't understand what he's building. Wolverine pulled his claws out halfway. Say that again. Reed stepped forward. It's not a war. It's a rewrite. Red Skull wasn't killing heroes for revenge. He was erasing timelines, stitching together a new one, his one, with pieces of every reality where he won. Every variant, every echo, every failure the heroes buried, he was gathering them, devouring them, and building a new history. In this new timeline, Hydra never fell. The Avengers were never formed. Superman never landed on Earth. Batman died in the alley as a child. The X-Men were hunted out of existence. And Red Skull, he became the myth that shaped everything. They were no longer fighting to protect Earth. They were fighting to remember it ever existed. Still, the fractures grew. Thor confronted Superman. You're too soft. You want to talk while he writes us out of reality. You're too reckless, Clark shot back. You think thunder can fix timelines? Black Widow took Strange aside. We need a fail-safe. Strange sighed. We had one. She narrowed her eyes. What do you mean had? Then came the next death. Steve Rogers, found impaled on the broken monument of the original S.H.I.E.L.D. base. No signs of a struggle. No wounds, no blood, just his body, held upright by nothing. Frozen, not by ice, but by time itself. His face peaceful, like he had accepted something. Tattooed across his chest, I chose peace. It hit like a bomb. Half the world turned on the heroes overnight. Conspiracies spread. Was Captain America working with Red Skull? Had he surrendered? Did he trade the Avengers to protect the world? No one knew. And that was the point. Red Skull didn't have to kill them all. He just had to make them doubt. Batman left the council. He returned to Gotham, locking it under total surveillance, swearing he'd protected his way. No more teams. No more votes. Wolverine vanished too. Said he'd find Red Skull himself. Thor flew to the edge of the galaxy, hoping to reach Asgard's last archivist before Red Skull could corrupt even myth. Strange opened a portal to the old Sanctum archives in the Dream Dimension, searching for relics older than time itself. Superman stayed. He stood at the center of what was left of Earth's resistance, alone, watching every hero splinter off, one by one. Then something strange happened. A signal, weak, buried in static, a heartbeat. But it wasn't from Earth. It was coming from below, from a prison that didn't exist anymore. The Raft, a black site once used to house uncontainable threats, now wiped off the map after the Skrull Wars. But the signal was clear, ancient, Morse code, SOS. 3 letters followed, DOLEM. Superman's eyes flared. Victor Von Doom. The man even villains refuse to awaken. The one person who once claimed, if reality ever begins to break, it will break around me. If he was still alive, he was Earth's last chance, or its first nail in the coffin. Superman made his decision. He turned toward the horizon and flew, not with hope, but with purpose. Because he finally understood. They weren't losing because Red Skull was stronger. They were losing because Red Skull wasn't playing the same game. He was rewriting the rules. And the first rule? Heroes don't save the world. They forget it ever existed. Superman reached the edge of the planet, not the surface, but the memory of it. Coordinates led to nothing. Just blank ocean. Not water. Not space. Something in between. He pushed forward. Time bent. Space twisted. For a moment, he wasn't Kal-El. He was Clark Kent. A boy in Kansas. Then he was a soldier in black, eyes red, standing over a burning earth. Then nothing. And then he saw it, the raft, or what was left of it, floating between dimensions, stitched together with scrap reality, broken pieces of prisons, forgotten timelines. Inside, suspended in anti-time, was Doom. Not chained, not guarded, just waiting. "You're late," Doom said. His voice didn't echo. It resonated, like reality adjusted around it. Even Superman had to brace himself. "I need your help," Clark said. "No, you need my permission." That was Doom. Never begging, never bending. Superman explained everything. The resurrection, the timeline bleed, the deaths, the rewriting. Doom listened and smiled. Red Skull doesn't want to conquer the world. He wants to be the author of it. He floated down. No armor, just a cloak and something glowing beneath the skin, like he'd absorbed something unnatural. "You think this is the first time?" Doom said. "Skull is just another echo. The real war isn't between good and evil. It's between who remembers and who gets remembered." Superman asked him plainly, "Can you stop him?" "No." Pause. "But I can erase him." That was the cost. Doom didn't save worlds. He replaced them. He offered a deal. Open the gates to the memory stream beneath the source wall. Let Doom intervene, and he'd rewrite the rewrite. Lock Red Skull in a forgotten corner of time where he'd rot with the rest of history's mistakes. But there was a catch. Someone had already made that deal, and that someone was a hero. Back on Earth, the collapse had begun. New York flickered between realities. 1 second, Avengers Tower was standing tall. The next, it was a Hydra monument, then a wasteland, then gone. Civilians looped through conversations. Children forgot their names mid-sentence. Time was slipping, the fabric of the world fraying like old rope. Thor returned, barely alive, face burned, hammer broken. "I saw him," he gasped. "He's wearing me. A version of me. In another world, I fell in battle." And he took the hammer. Wolverine returned with worse news. He'd found Charles Xavier's mind, not the man, just the mind, drifting through psychic space. And it was screaming one name over and over: Reed. At first, no one believed it. Reed Richards was supposed to be the smartest man alive, Earth's last firewall, the protector of possibility. But then the file surfaced, not from Red Skull, from within the Baxter building. A secret project, Echo Chamber, a multiversal filtration system designed by Reed to preserve ideal timelines. Timelines where the Fantastic Four survived, where he saved his children, where Sue didn't die. But every time the chamber activated, another timeline was erased. And guess who he worked with to build it? Red Skull. But it wasn't this Red Skull. It was a variant. One Reed thought he could control, one with knowledge of multiversal anchoring. They called it a pact of preservation. Reed believed if he helped Red Skull secure his own perfect reality, the rest would stabilize. He was wrong. Red Skull learned how to collapse timelines, and then he learned how to choose which ones to keep. Reed wasn't betrayed. He enabled it. Now, the heroes were turning on each other. Thor nearly killed him. Wolverine would have, if not for Strange pulling them apart with a time loop trap. "Let him explain," Strange said. But Reed had no defense. "I lost my family in 26 universes. I tried to save just one." That was all he said. And then he vanished. Gone. No teleport signature. No energy burst. Just deleted. Red Skull had heard. And now he was inside the room. Not physically. Through sound. Through time. Each of them heard his voice in a different memory. Their worst one. Wolverine saw the day he killed Jean. Thor saw his father whisper, "You were never worthy." Superman saw Lois fall. Again. The world cracked. Literally. The sky shattered like glass. Time zones collapsed into each other. Dinosaurs roamed over aircraft carriers. Celestials frozen in place halfway through creation. The world was being remixed, randomized, rewritten live. Strange barely held it together. "We have minutes, maybe seconds." That's when Doom arrived. Not walking, Not teleporting. He descended, surrounded by swirling glyphs of languages not invented yet. "You want to stop the skull?" he asked. "Then let me in." He wasn't talking to the heroes. He was talking to reality itself. The source wall began to open. Superman's eyes burned. "If you rewrite this, we lose everything. Free will. Identity." Doom looked at him, calm. "No. You lose ego. Identity is what survives memory. This is about remembering what matters." Thor lifted his broken hammer. Wolverine unsheathed his claws. Strange's hand shook, readying a final spell. But in that moment, Superman said nothing, because he remembered something Skull said. "I return not to conquer, not to rebuild. I come only to finish." This wasn't the final battle. This was the prelude. Red Skull wasn't the villain. He was the catalyst. The real threat hadn't arrived yet, but something was coming through that wall. And Doom wasn't trying to stop it. He was preparing the world for it. The source wall shattered, not with an explosion, with silence. Reality paused. Everything froze mid-motion. Raindrops in the air, heartbeats between beats, thunder mid-growl. And then the pieces drifted outward like ash, revealing what waited on the other side. Not Red Skull, not Doom. Something older, a shape with no form, a presence that looked like whoever remembered it last. To Superman, it appeared as Jor-El. To Thor, it looked like Odin. To Strange, the Ancient One. It whispered not in voices, but in memories. You kept rewriting, resetting. Every time the story hurt, you changed it. Now, the story will forget you. This was the Archivist, the true threat Red Skull had summoned but couldn't control. Not a being, a force. The multiverse's failsafe. A cosmic editor programmed to erase the worlds that broke their own rules too many times. And Earth had rewritten itself more than any other. The heroes struck first. Thor roared and leapt. Superman shot through the air. Strange launched binding spells made from the birth of time. Nothing landed, because in the Archivist's realm, action wasn't real. Only memory was. One by one, the heroes were unraveled. Not killed, forgotten. Wolverine sliced at air, but his claws faded. "Did I even exist?" he muttered, falling to his knees. Thor threw a hammer that never left his hand. Strange dissolved into script. Superman stood alone, barely holding his form, his cape flickering like static. The Archivist reached toward him, fingers like pages turning. Then, a voice. Familiar, broken, human. Steve Rogers. Not alive, but remembered. Not present, but echoed. "We don't need perfect timelines. We need truth." His shield appeared, not in metal, in story. Superman grabbed it, and threw. The shield hit the Archivist's core, not to wound it, but to remind it of sacrifice, of heroes who didn't reset the story when they lost. The Archivist flinched. Superman poured everything into that moment. Every loss, every scar, every failure. "I don't want to be remembered," he said. "I want to be real." And with that, the Archivist blinked and disappeared. Reality didn't rewind. It didn't reset. It settled. Broken but honest. The skies cleared. The timelines stopped flickering. The multiverse stabilized, not as one story, but as millions, messy, flawed, and alive. Only a few remembered what happened. Doom vanished. Red Skull lost beyond memory. The Archivist sleeping for now. Superman stood alone at the edge of Earth, looking up at stars that finally stood still. "Let someone else write the next chapter," he whispered, and flew home. End.